This episode, wow. Really? Wow. It only took 9 or 10 episodes, but finally, folks, finally, Mark and I have a balanced, mature, thoughtful discussion about art versus commerce. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. We might be turning a corner. Yep, a newer, wiser era of written off. Heck, for this episode's movie, we don't even stoop to talking about John Voight's fat, threateningly thick boner hiding under a bedsheet, and I just did it. Damn it! Folks, grab a slice, because it's time for Written Off 5. Welcome, one and all, to this very special episode of Written Off. I'm calling this Written Off : semicolon, whatever. It's called Written Off: The Reaction. This is going to be of a different kind of episode where basically one of us has seen a movie and really, really wants to talk about it with the other, but we can't wait for the other person to hurry the fuck up and watch the movie. So in this case, today, this episode, we're talking about Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, which is a film. Let me tell you, it's a film. I'm your host, Bradley Freeman. Thank you very much for joining us. I am the one who has seen the movie, whereas my co-host, Mark, has not. How are you going today, Mark?
Very well. I don't know if I'll ever be able to see it on the big screen. There might be one cinema showing it near here. Are we Thursday today? Yeah, so it might be gone by today. So I don't know if I will see it on the big... I have a feeling. There's one art house cinema in the nearest city, but I suspect I won't see it on the big screen, sadly, because it does sound fascinating.
There are two movies I'm going to swear up and down you should go and see on the big screen. Number one is the 4K restoration of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. I mean, wow. If you've got 3 hours and change to spare and you haven't seen it, or you have, you will transcend watching that movie because, like Spielberg and Lucas say, that movie is pure cinema, frame by frame. The second movie, I'm going to say, Megalopolis. This is a film that for so many, many reasons, some sensible, kind of demands that you go and see it on the big screen. If for no other reason, then you can just be atomized by the what the fuck of it all. Take pity on Coppola's bank account. This movie is not seeing the return that anyone involved on this movie would have liked to have seen. At this stage, you have a higher chance of George Lucas returning to the Star Wars franchise and making that sequel trilogy he always intended. Well, you know, I like Disney, and I think I'm gonna... Oh, Jesus. Fucking Kermit the Frog with his mouth shoved full of socks? Or is that some beaten and abused Jimmy Stewart? Oh man, stop hitting me, Clarence. You've already got your wings. Oh, I have to stop before it gets worse. And yes, this is not a threat. It can always get worse. Trust me, Mark still has the scars on his back. Let me start off by asking you a question. How many Coppola movies have you seen? I've got a feeling you've seen a hell of a lot more than I have.
Okay, obviously the big three,
Yep.
Four if you count Godfather 3, Apocalypse Now, and then we've talked about The Conversation.
Dracula.
5, Dracula. Oh yeah, of course. 6. I haven't seen The Outsiders. I haven't seen Rumblefish.
Jack.
I don't think I've seen it actually. Yeah, but little less than half, like the obvious ones.
So you've definitely seen more than I have. So putting it on Front Street for everyone right now, my Coppola knowledge is quite small. I know he's a legend. I know what he's responsible for. I know of the films he's made, but really I've seen maybe 5 tops. This is going to be interesting. Me talking about this movie and you, Mark, being a bit more knowledgeable about all things with this filmmaker. So as I've told Mark before we recorded, really excited for this. Spoilers, I fucking love this movie. With a reaction version of this podcast, we're going to start with a plot summary. And the plot summary, I'm just going to steal straight from the glory that is Wikipedia. Are you ready, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the original summary I gave Mark was over 6 minutes long. But as an editor, that makes me super nervous because, as you can tell from this podcast, I like to keep things punchy and zippy.
Well, what about all those accents and voices you do, Bradley? You could cut those out, couldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose.
And what about all those tangents you and Mark go on, talking about Japan and Germany and vinyl records and equal rights? You could cut that out, couldn't you, Bradley?
Yeah.
So it's not so zippy and punchy, is it, my dear friend?
Alright, moving on. So, what I've done is I've changed the pitch and the speed of the summary. As a result, it's now going to run about 1.5 times faster than it did when I talked with Mark. You're going to get me sounding like a quasi-chipmunk, which I already kind of do, I admit. It's going to go a lot faster, and try and follow along. Try and make sense of the story, because I gotta be honest with you, even at normal speed, the summary wouldn't make sense because the movie has no fucking interest in making sense. Either way, shits and giggles, have a good time. Oh, and for those of you who don't like these kinds of shenanigans, this will take about 3 minutes. So hit that fast forward button until you've sped ahead about 3 minutes and you're good to go back to our regular shenanigans. Enjoy!
In an alternate present-day American republic, Caesar Catalina clashes with a new Rome city mayor, Franklin Cicero. Caesar is the inventor of
MEGALON,
a revolutionary new bioadaptive building material he believes can change the world, and has ambitious plans to utilize it to construct Megalopolis, a futuristic utopian city of his own design. After Caesar announces his intentions in a big televised speech, Cicero, the mayor, leads a smear campaign against him involving the death of his wife and the post-mortem disappearance of her body in unexplained circumstances. If you think that's going to be important to the story, I'll tell you, fuck, no, it's not. Meanwhile, yes, go for it.
No, I was only going to say, I saw 4 reviews, all of them said the guy can freeze time, but that's not even important to the story whatsoever. So I like that anyway. Please carry on.
Yeah, we'll get into that. TV presenter Wow Platinum, Caesar's mistress, leaves him to marry Hamilton Crassus III, an extremely wealthy elderly bank CEO and Caesar's uncle, happens to be. Shortly afterward, Caesar becomes acquainted with Julia, who is the mayor's well-read daughter. And by well-read, basically she knows all the scandal gossip. While initially distrusting and spying on him, she soon develops feelings for him. When Julia reveals herself immune to Caesar's ability to stop time, there it is, he brings her on to assist in the Megalopolis project. Okay, we're not even halfway into this movie yet. Okay, this is all up front. At a lavish and decadent wedding reception for Wow Platinum and Crassus, Caesar takes drugs backstage. Claudio Pulcher, Crassus's depraved nephew, sabotages the show to implicate Caesar in a sex scandal involving Vesta, a teenage pop star with a virginal image. Caesar is arrested, but ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing and released. Meanwhile, Vesta continues her career after adopting a rebellious and sexually charged persona. Turns out, not so virginal. Soon, Caesar and Julia become romantically involved. I don't know if you could see that coming, but it comes. Caesar laments the loss of his ability to stop time following his arrest. Yes, once a man gets arrested, he is no longer able to stop time. But he finds himself able to do it because of Julia. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union satellite, Carthage, falls out of orbit over New Rome, decimating large parts of the city. Adam Driver, Caesar, uses the opportunity to begin construction of Megalopolis, despite Cicero's opposition. So the building dude is like, right, great, time for me to build my utopia, without the mayor's permission, which is a thing that can happen. In a press conference, he urges the need for debate and dialogue about society and asks people to consider if a better world is possible. Caesar is delighted to learn that Julia is pregnant, while Cicero the mayor is aghast. Privately, he pleads with Caesar to leave his daughter, attempting to bribe him with information about what happened to his wife. But Caesar refuses. Claudio begins stirring up popular discontent against both Caesar and Cicero with fascist rhetoric, while separately, Wow Platinum convinces Claudio to assist her in a plan to take control of Crassus's fortune via hostile takeover, freezing Caesar's bank accounts in the process. But don't worry, we're almost at the end. Caesar, shockingly, is shot in the face, but heals quickly thanks to a
MEGALON,
skin graft, because apparently
MEGALON
can also be attached to skin. Does the movie explain hows and why? No. The protests against Caesar and Cicero, led by Claudio, turn into full-scale riots, and Cicero flees to a secret underground bunker. After being forced from his position as bank CEO by the board of directors, Crassus confronts Wow Platinum and Claudio with a bow and arrow, killing Platinum and wounding Claudio. Confronting protesters at Megalopolis, Caesar gives an impassioned speech about the future and wins the crowd over. Claudio's protesters turn against him, and he has his body strung up by an angry mob. Crassus pledges to use his wealth to support the construction of Megalopolis. Sometime later, the construction of Megalopolis is completed. Cicero, holding Julia and Caesar's baby daughter, named Sunny Hope, promises to work together with Caesar to keep building a better future. On New Year's Eve, Caesar stops time once more, but only Sunny Hope seems unaffected.
Now, did any of that make sense to you?
No, I was thinking a little bit as you were reading it, if you've ever had the misfortune of reading a Thomas Pynchon novel. It sounds a bit like when you try and summarize something like Gravity's Rainbow. He writes in a way it's almost not supposed to be understood on the literal level. You know, people spend their whole lives trying to understand it beyond that. And as you were reading it, I was thinking, yeah, this has got a bit of that about it. But no, I understood not a jot.
Boiling it down into the basic sum parts, it's Rome, but it's New York. And it follows this visionary architect with this amazing technological thing. And he just clashes with the mayor of the city. One wants to build something new, and the other wants to keep things safe and to keep things as they are. It's all using the Catilinarian conspiracy of Rome past. So you have an artist who sees the possibilities of the future against the conservatives. And it's something that you could really spring off from.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to the multiple sequels that will definitely happen.
Let's get into what I liked about the film. When I left the cinema, I was happy, but kind of muted. I was confused, but I wasn't disappointed. Every scene to me was worthwhile. I wonder if this would do the same to you or anyone else out there who's got an artistic streak through them. The next morning when I woke up, all of the story kind of locked into place. And I felt challenged. I felt this call to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
It really gave me this charge. And I feel these ideas and urges ready to go. And it's made me desperate to create, which is something that I haven't really been hit with from a movie in quite a while. Have you ever encountered that with a film before?
Maybe my attention span is the problem, but as I get older, I'm not watching. Well, I think it's access. I think aside from maybe Mubi, which is good on those kinds of films, most of the films that are on streaming are mid, hence why probably this podcast exists. That is the massive majority. But yeah, when you see a film and you, as you said, you wake up the next morning, and sometimes even when you come out of it, you're like, I'm not sure I got that. But a lot of the reviews, especially the leaning on the more positive side, say exactly the same thing. For example, in The Scotsman, last night I saw Megalopolis and I'm still working through it. And I think any film that does that is to be cherished. And obviously a film that has been made under the circumstances this one has been made, you know, you've already alluded to the risks he took. I mean, the massive financial hit he personally took to make it. You've got to applaud it. Really, regardless, even, you know, the fact that it exists is a wonderful thing and a surprising thing.
I'll be the first to admit that my film tastes are too mainstream. I think you've seen a lot more varied cinema than I have. I can say I've seen a shitload of Japanese or Hong Kong or Korean cinema, but even then, that's typically genre.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't often see these films. I call them fuck it and fuck you films, because scene by scene, it's, hey, fuck it. If you don't follow it or you don't get it or you don't pay attention, fuck you.
Yeah.
So fuck it and fuck you films. I don't often see them. And certainly these kinds of films, if you're in the wrong frame of mind, like if you're tired from a hard day of work, or you've been dealing with your kids or whatever, and you sit down to a fuck it and fuck you film, you wind up saying, well, fuck you too. And you turn off the film and you never watch it again. And your friends mention it. It's like, oh, that piece of shit, something like that, right? Maybe I was in the right frame of mind or what, but this has made me want to watch more fuck it and fuck you movies.
You described it quite well. Probably because there's a lot more going on than there used to be. You know, obviously at uni I studied film, so you would actually be able to sit down in a screening room and watch a lot of those kinds of films. And the inspiration, you get a very weird firing of the synapses, which you've described quite well actually, which you just don't get with a lot of the films that we have talked about. And, you know, fair enough, I guess, because, you know, they've got to make money. And I would recommend Titane, Titane.
Writing it down.
And it's body horror, but it's kind of along similar, not similar, but along chaotic lines that will most certainly open eyes. But absolutely 100% agree. You can only handle people who are living kind of normal lives can only do one a week of these kind of films, probably. It's not really an after work kind of film, is it? But when you're able to have that time and space and go to cinema to watch them, then do it.
The acting, the casting is utterly superb.
Yeah, great cast, yeah.
Everyone shows up, everyone goes all in, and everyone demands attention. I have a kind of asterisk for this later on, but you can accuse some actors in some movies we've covered in the past, who kind of sleepwalk through a film or certainly don't demand the paycheck they've been given. In this film, everyone steps up to the plate. The satire, I call it vibrantly thick. It's not a third or fourth coat of paint. It's more like you've painted over something and now paint is so thick on the wall, whatever texture the wall used to be, long gone. I think that's part of the charm of this movie. Everything is so upfront while still being a bit of a head scratcher. It's not a subtle film in any way, but there's still elements that you go like, well, why?
Yeah, and that's a hard balance to strike, isn't it? You think of someone like, Luc Besson, who, again, no subtlety involved whatsoever. But unfortunately, with his films, like they're rewatchable, but in my opinion, they become more throwaway the more you rewatch them. I find there's less to get your teeth into. You enjoy them and you continue to enjoy them, but your enjoyment of it becomes with less depth. Whereas, yeah, that is Aguirre, Wrath of God by Werner Herzog, I think is a film that I think I've only seen it twice, but I know when I watch it again, it'll be more-ish and there'll be more and more and more to enjoy about it. And we set up this whole podcast to talk about meh stuff. But when you get something like this, and yeah, you're having that bowled over excitement, like if you go to a really good show at an art gallery and you're like, what hell were they? How? Why? And in film, it is incredibly difficult, especially if you want to make a film on a budget. It's virtually impossible. So again, the fact that this exists, the fact that someone like him has, we can talk about, maybe we don't need to talk about some of the things that he's been accused of. Let's just take it as an artist. And we know artists tend to be problematic. Let's take it as an artist. Him being, and as you say, people buying into his vision. How many people had to buy into what he wanted to do to get it made? Incalculable number of people, obviously actors, all of the crew, everyone involved. At the end of every day, we're like, all right, we're doing this then, and have actually said, yeah, come on, let's do it. It is remarkable, whether or not it's a failure or not. Unfortunately, if it is a financial failure, which is almost certain to be, does that mean this will never happen again? Maybe. Is it going to be like a Heaven's Gate situation, which is the famous one people always hold up as the film that destroyed the original studio system?
Right.
I think it'll just be looked at as this odd little thing that happened. People will probably keep coming back to it and being like, my God, even not even having seen it, having seen the reactions to it, people are like, my God. And that's great. Anything in art that gets that response gets my vote.
Because he funded it himself, I don't think heads will roll from the lack of box office. No. I mean, $130 million. Let's say of which 120 was all his. And so far, the box office is at maybe $7 or $8 million. Now, if this was a studio picture, Warner Brothers released a movie that was $130 million. And so far, the box office worldwide was $7 million, there would be floundering in the press. There would be self-flagellation. There would be accusations. There would be finger pointing. There'd be endless reports and data. The director would never work again, or would just go straight to TV or something. And the actors would turn on the creatives and say, well, they said this and they said that. And there would be a lot more self-immolation.
Without wishing to be morbid, he's not going to make another 20 films, is he? And he's certainly not going to be, probably had already resigned himself to the fact he's not going to be making anything with studio money. So kind of doesn't matter. I think of something like, Jodorowsky's Dune, which has that famously really good documentary about it. And he was going to throw the kitchen sink at it. He couldn't quite get it across the line. But something like that on a big scale, on a small scale, you do see quite a lot. But on a big scale, I mean, Off the top of my head, I can't think of any examples.
It's to be celebrated because whenever a filmmaker goes for broke, like who you've referenced, or remember when Terry Gilliam was trying to make Don Quixote?
Yeah.
And the poor bugger just couldn't get it off the ground. Weather be damned. Whenever an artist just puts everything on the line, they've had this inside them for decades. You hope it's as fascinating and as worthwhile your time as this is, well, at least for me. I can't think of anything more disappointing than watching one of these kinds of films and being like, well, that was just pointless. I mean, how disheartening would that be? Because the films we've talked about, the films we're going to talk about in the future, there's always that question of, well, the end product, how much is studio interference, or the writer this, or the director that, the producer this? We'll never know the exact final product that we're critiquing after the fact. We'll never know how much of that is what was intended to be made, so to speak. And this movie from Coppola, there's no one else to point to. He wrote this, he directed it. I mean, it's been his baby for decades. What you see is exactly what you get. And that's rare.
On this scale, I don't want to say unprecedented, because somebody could say, no, how about this? But to my way of thinking, it's unprecedented.
Spielberg, he'd been wanting to make a musical for eons, and he remade West Side Story, and he worked on The Fabelmans for a very, very long time. But The Fabelmans did not cost 130 million plus.
Yeah, the problem with West Side Story is the actor is too tall. He must be a foot taller. I'm being a bit trite, but impossible to watch for that one fact alone.
I mean, Spielberg's a genius, but that fucking actor's too tall. Unwatchable.
Honestly, I've never said that before, probably never will again, but he's too tall. Anyway, yes, please tell me, you've gone through the plot synopsis. So let's say what worked?
There is sharp, fascinating science fiction in here, just beating, coming off the screen, but it's weighed down by excess, which might be the point. How can I describe it? Like The Matrix. The Matrix, for all its obviousness or cribbing from other stories, whatever, has real sci-fi merit to it. Questions and challenges for the audience to tackle if they want, especially for, a studio release picture. And I feel this movie is the same. There's tantalizing elements that steal your attention. Some things in here, I just wanted to just stop the movie and be like, wait, what is that? What are you talking about? How does that affect these characters? I want to know more about this. I don't think the movie's very interested in that, unfortunately. We'll get onto later on, but that's really, really good. I loved the Rome for New York switch. Have you seen something like that before? Yeah, sure. But it works visually and thematically. You know what I also liked? There's a whole bunch of act breaks. The Doctor's Sleep director's cut has chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It depends on the movie, of course, and it certainly depends on the movie's length. I think if you've got act breaks in a 90-minute movie, maybe it's not earned or needed. But when a movie goes over the 2-hour mark, or at least is told with clear beginnings and endings between acts, it's worth it. What are your opinions on act breaks?
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. I think sometimes it's really fun. It's funny you mentioned The Matrix, because we saw, well, I'm assuming the final Matrix film together at the cinema, and all three of us really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. And that is a film that took, considering what it was, huge swings, and a lot of people still ragging on it. And I think we agreed, what an interesting play on, transgender issues, identity issues, metatextual issues. What a fascinating film. I still think that's a fascinating film. I think films that, like you said, take their time. I mean, you could argue that maybe he needed an editor, but why the hell not? If it's long and if it's a lot to think about, let it ruminate, give it a bit of room. And it is generally the preserve of art house or quote unquote European cinema. But again, even those films don't tend to have the freedom or the budgetary, if they're going for a bigger budget, to have budgetary freedom. I can't think of the last film I saw. In a way, Zone of Interest, the film that is set next to the concentration camp by the man that made Under the Skin. it has a very pronounced and obvious cuts in the action, and it's cutting away to this, like, it's difficult to quite understand what we're watching at first, and then later we realize what we're watching. But that very clearly breaks things up and says, right, stop with that, let's have a break from that. It has intertitles with just this kind of quite piercing sound that goes on for sort of a minute and a half, and then back to the action again. I think that's kind of doing it, but that's not a particularly long film, so maybe it's doing it for different reasons.
In this film, during the act breaks, you have the dulcet tones of Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, wow.
Either reading the title card or explaining something else through a kind of soft, sing-songy kind of poem, which is, yeah, great. What else is great in this movie? John Voight. Man, that guy is having a fucking blast. He's got some of the best lines. He's got some of the best jokes. He's just having a good time. There's a scene, speaking of John Voight, for his character, the rich banker, he gets married to Aubrey Plaza's Wow Platinum. And what I thought was a really smart scene, their wedding ceremony, is it televised? I'm not too sure. But regardless, it's some kind of huge spectacle. It's set in a kind of coliseum, and you've got actual centurions on horses like Ben-Hur. They're all doing that. But there's also a huge pop song in the middle with pop song dancing. I really enjoyed it, the vibe it was giving off. There is a character, which I mentioned in the summary. I mean, she's basically a Britney Spears or Taylor Swift like someone. She's famous for A, singing, and B, for being a virgin, and I guess C, for being your all-American blonde, slim, young woman of a certain age. And the politicians and the rich folk lining up in the stadium, they hold up QR codes to pledge money to her virginal pledge. And I thought it was just hilarious. Just, I'll give a $10,000, holding up a QR code just to pledge, like, she's a virgin. Great. When I watched it, I thought they were pledging money to fuck her.
Right.
She is outed as lying about her age and possibly lying about her status as a virgin. She's outed, and it's shock. Oh my God. And then the very next cuts to her presumably next music video, and she's all sexied up. She's dancing through fire. She's unapologetic. She's the siren. She's like, yeah, I'm a mean bitch. Fuck you. Dun, dun. And then that's it. She's gone from the picture. I thought that was so economical. Like, yep, here's what's happened to that character, or / here's what's happened to America. Or you've seen this before. Some celebrity who was touted as this person suddenly falls from grace, and then seemingly in the blink of an eye, they're like, oh, this is the real me. Yeah. And we all, like pigs to a trough, line up for it. I liked that the movie, for this part at least, didn't need to go any more detail. It was very visual, and it was just like, yeah, that's exactly what we as humans so often do.
I mean, as you're describing it to me, and again, I've read a few things, people trying to summarize it, or people trying to summarize the vibe of it, have really, really struggled. And that is something, again, I really, really love. If you really are struggling, and again, people are calling it messy, and by all accounts, it is a bit messy, because obviously it has a huge surfeit of ideas. And as you alluded to earlier, we've seen a lot of things that we know films are made under a great deal of pressure from all kinds of quarters, you know, financially and creatively. And a lot of films now are beholden to either the reaction or the perceived reaction of the, you know, online social media brigade. And this has been made in a bubble. You know, Apocalypse Now is way out there for what it was. I mean, it's amazing that has sort of been as successful as it has, because if you actually look at it, and as a literature student, we all had to read Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and I'd seen Apocalypse Now first, and when I went back and read Heart of Darkness, I'm like, well, this is dull, because Apocalypse Now is trying things, the Redux in particular is trying things that he is an incredibly creative and bold filmmaker. And again, not everything works. And Apocalypse Now, a lot of people I've heard have said that it's quite boring. And I've heard also this movie is one of the key words that have come out is boring. Now, to me, from what you're saying in terms of ideas, and it doesn't sound boring at all. It sounds like something you can pore over. So that's kind of interesting that different people are coming out of it, seeing it in a different way. Everything you say sounds like being plucked from different corners of literature. It sounds to me, well, and I am reading, the New Yorker has an article about it. It sounds like he's been reading a lot of very varied things and has been, a bit like you, has been interested and excited and thought, right, that's going in, that's going in. So some of the books he's referenced, Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, The Dawn of Everything by David Wengrow, The Dream of the Red Chamber, 12 Against the Gods by Will. These are very diffuse and interesting books that he's reading. And it really does sound like big books with big ideas, big swings. And he has thought, well, I'm a movie maker. I'm going to take those big swings and put them on screen. And he has always had, and we talked about the conversation, he made that film, which I think I watched twice this year because I'm endlessly interested in it as a film and why it got made and why he decided that was where he was going to go after Godfather. But he is not afraid. I mean, there are many things you can say about him, but he's not afraid for lots of understandable reasons. Most directors, I think, get more and more afraid as they grow older or even if they have success after success, the work becomes more timid, and he hasn't. And I'm talking about, I mean, obviously in the art house world, it's a bit different, but generally, well, people get more timid, don't they? Generally, you become afraid of doing something you haven't done. It just seems to be how we're built. So again, for what is he, 80 odd, to have staked everything, almost everything on this, it's incredible, really.
Have you seen do you remember John Frankenheimer's Ronin?
Back in my De Niro phase, I'm pretty sure I've seen it, yeah.
Holy fuck! That might be one of my favorite films. I think it is stellar. Frankenheimer was famous for that kind of movie, the suspense, espionage, 70s, whatever. I mean, after Ronin, he made Reindeer Games, I think, with Ben Affleck. I mean, it wasn't his final picture, but a critic later on, when Mr. Frankenheimer passed away, summarized like this movie, Ronin, is very much Frankenheimer's final. This is who I am. This is what I made. This is me. And I think Megalopolis is Coppola's version of that.
Yeah.
It's him screaming at the audience, this is me. Pay fucking attention.
Probably is exactly what you see it more with painters, or let's say, that kind of artist, because it's just easier for them to do it. They'll ask big bang and then they're off. Again, film as a medium on a scale like that, it just can't usually be done. It is, shrinkingly rare, because what tends to happen is I watched Axel F the other day. That music, though, I mean, doesn't matter. You could put that on top of an image of dog shit and you'd still enjoy it. That music is brilliant. Generally, and we've already talked about it a lot. We'll talk about it a lot more. People coming to the end, they retread. Well, because people are willing to finance it and because it's something, they will try other things and then they'll go back because they'll be like, well, how many people have done it? Well, I will try that. No, we don't want you to do that, Eddie. We want you to go back and do that laugh again. All right, I'll go back and do that laugh again.
Or they can't do anything else.
Yeah, or they can't do anything else, yeah.
For example, they're known for this genre and they would love to make a romance or a Western or art house, but unfortunately they're only known for example, action or horror or comedy. As much as they're desperate to do something else, they can't.
Not allowed to, or I mean, Scorsese, his late career has been filled with some interesting things. Killers of the Flower Moon is a long, rambling film that does kind of feel like Scorsese did definitely have a lot of influence. I mean, the book itself, I've read the book, and the book is also long and kind of unwieldy, but Scorsese is, I feel, still doing it. He may be not quite as big a swing as this, and he's still working within the machine. He's still got the marketing power behind him, and he's got, DiCaprio, which probably helps. But
there are shots or takes in this movie that are just ingenious. When the Russian satellite crashes into New York City or New Rome, instead of actually seeing like a Roland Emmerich style destruction, which I was thinking we're going to see, because where did the budget go? Oh, it's going to go on this massive destruction sequence. Well, no, you never see, I don't think you ever see the impact. What you do see are silhouettes of humans blown up on the skyscrapers, these black silhouettes reacting in panic and terror, and they're surrounded by red. they're elongated on the skyscrapers as the fire kind of comes with them. Just a great shot.
Coppola reveres the different stages of film development. He's a bit of a magpie. He's probably taken a lot of those images from silent cinema. You talk about the silhouettes, that sounds like a silent cinema thing to me. Scorsese will do it as well. They're both film historians, and they love to show you that they touch upon those things, as you know, even as technology develops, they still love those old school tricks. And he's very good with light, has always been very good with light. So you saying silhouettes doesn't surprise me, because he is one of his strong points, very good at shadow and contrast and things like that. Again, for a man in, what is he, 82? Is he? I don't know how old he is.
85.
I just really can't think of a direct parallel. I really can't.
I mean, the director of Mad Max, he's certainly getting up there in his years, and he gets out there and makes these bombastic action movies, you know? So
yeah, and it was received in that way, I suppose. Like, wow, where did this come from? But it was still within, he did go back to the well and the world that he'd been successful in, even if he produced something people hadn't expected from that world. But what Coppola has done is, yeah, something else, I think.
Bradley Freeman and the team at Pugnacious Books have developed a heartwarming, supernatural... Oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Bradley Freeman has written a real swell book here. It's just... Wait a minute. Swell? Swell? Who says swell? Who says that? The story is about an old man in Tokyo who hits a girl with his train. I don't even know what the fuck I'm reading. It's a great book. It'll unfreeze your cold, lifeless heart and tingle you deep with the... I wonder what the fuck the real dialogue is. See? This is what happens when I go off book. I sound like a motivational speaker with half an empty bottle of tequila in his pocket. Give me that script! What the fuck is this word? Who wrote this horseshit? Glaze lighting. Glaze lighting. Is that even a word? Bullshit it is. What's it mean? Momo is a ghost. Or is she? She's determined to fuck. Did I say determined right? I did. Son of a bitch! Available on Amazon right now in ebook, paperback, and hardcover, with the ebook selling for less than a slice of pizza. That didn't sound for shit, did it? Tony, would you do me a favor? Will you do me a kindness? Stop putting these big words in my ad read. They're too big. I can't fit them on my mouth because they hit the back of my throat and I choke on them like some desperate homewrecker guzzling a cock behind closed doors at a wedding party. Why don't I say it fucking right? Why does my tongue do me dirty? Trying to give the listeners quality information about this fucking book, this Momo and Matsu book, and all I do is eat shit by the bucketful. I gotta read it again because my mind is a piece of chunky poo. Fuck! Jesus Christ, words, you ass, you unpronounceable word! And put it in a Is this book for real? This guy who wrote it didn't even have the sense to write to market and put it in a recognizable genre. Is it horror? Like hell it is. Is it a coming-of-age story? Kinda, but then the other main character's over 60 and 2 seconds from having a fucking heart attack, for fuck's sake. Tell me the truth. He was high, wasn't he? He was high on cocaine when he wrote this shit. He pulled it out of his ass. Christ, it worked for Stephen King, didn't it? Who wrote Chunka Chunka on the whiteboard, you wet syrupy shit? Why is this so hard? I can't get my mouth around it. I try and I try. It's just too much, the girth of it. Fuck! Oh, I get so goddamn diuretic when I sit here and my mouth just never stops. Momo and Matsu, the director's cut, by Bradley Freeman. A Tokyo-set, heartwarming, supernatural novel about 2 lost souls who need each other more than they can possibly imagine. If you're a fan of anime movies or books with spooky stuff mixed in with some drama and emotion, then it's right up your alley. Available now on Amazon at an unbelievably low price. You believe any of that shit?
Okay, right. So to be slightly negative, is there anything... Yeah, again, the accusations against it have been that it's boring, but what would you say doesn't work, quote unquote?
Let's get into the negatives. And we're just going to go through bit by bit as I took my notes. Look, I don't like segment films. And what I mean by segment films is this scene happens and then another scene happens right after it, but I can't tell if it's connected or if it's is this occurring right after the previous scene? So I don't like segment films, and this feels like 40 plus segments.
Okay.
While those segments are amazing, and like I said, every scene does demand your attention, it is an assault on, I suppose, on Coppola's expectations that you will maintain interest and you will follow these characters. Because, yeah, Giancarlo Esposito, fantastic actor. We all love him. He plays Mayor Franklin Cicero. I feel like he needed a scene or two where he clearly states himself without pontificating, without speechifying, just a quiet moment, which I suppose is my one request for this movie overall, a quiet moment for the audience to feel him.
Mm-hmm.
Because more often than not in this movie, he's speaking very big and he's decrying Adam Driver's character of Caesar. He's trying to knock him down and say, look at this stupid son of a bitch, he's wrong. While that's great, if a character is 80 to 90% speeches, you don't feel like you get to the heart of him. And for him to be the other side of the coin, I suppose, to the movie, I would have liked moments where he just, oh, this is this guy. I understand what he wants because this is very clear and very human. Another thing I didn't like, your mileage may vary. I fucking hate drug taking scenes in movies. It always feels like an excuse for the production team. Let's get weird. Let's put in some music and, oh, here's like the main character with like 6 arms coming out of his back. And, oh, the camera's all moving and psychedelic and weird.
Yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose even that too. But it's just, the scene just keeps going. My note for any actor in a drug-taking scene is dial it the fuck down. Why not be jittery or mouth frothing, or can't say I've experienced a lot of way of drugs, but from what I've seen of drug takers, when you're on a high, you're kind of, you're out for the count. But whenever a movie character gets wasted, it's like, whoa, and they start to just look off screen and have these weird faces, and it's just, oh God.
My experience of being around drug users is they're just fucking boring. They may be having a wonderful time, but they're just fucking boring. They don't do anything of interest. It's all in the mind, obviously. And for those outside of it, it's like, okay, like you, I'm not a huge drug taker, never have been. So maybe we're just missing out. I don't know. Another
thing, so Lawrence Fishburne plays the narrator of the picture and also Caesar, Adam Driver's cab driver / chauffeur. His name is Fundi Romain, and he narrates most of the movie. The Japanese movie Battle Royale, the very, very beginning of the movie, it's got a text kind of crawl explaining to you the world, but then it very quickly cuts to the school picture. And then it just zooms in on the key players. This guy, that girl, this person. It's effectively telling you, here are the main players. And I thought something like that would have been good. If you're going to have a narrator, say, here's this guy, he's pretty awesome. Here's this person, she's not. Something to set up the players.
Yeah, this is the writer in you that wants cohesion and wants people to understand, which is fair. It's fair. It's just, I suppose we've discussed this as well. I've seen a lot of films that don't care about that, and I don't care about it. If nothing makes sense and you don't know who the people are, all right. But, I'm a fan of like surrealist cinema and stuff. So it doesn't bother me. It depends what the identity of the film is, I think, a little bit. And if it's trying to be one thing, it's trying to be surreal and then flips to realism, then that can be annoying. I can understand what you mean.
Here's the main thrust for me now. So Caesar Catalina, played by Adam Driver, our main character, he has these grand designs for Megalopolis, this utopian city. And he plans to use this material, element, technology, magic called
MEGALON.
Mm-hmm.
His architecture that we see throughout the movie, the pictures and later on the realization, they're visually fresh and intriguing. This is the sci-fi thing I was talking about. They look like plant life, mushrooms and long tree stalks. Amazing to see, but they whiz by in the movie. They're not lived in, they're not explained, they're not given time to breathe, which is actually a big problem I have with current science fiction cinema. A lot of these movies being released in the last 5 years, they have these science fiction aspects they're dressing. I don't really get a feel for how they work, and it was the same in this movie. I don't feel as though Coppola intends for you to give a damn about it. It's just a plot device. It's just a thing. It's just a visual image. But I was like, okay, so we're going to live on these orchid buildings? Do we live on the pedal? Or like, how does that work? I don't think it matters, but I found myself wanting to know. So the
Megalon.
or I suppose the unobtainium of this movie, or the midichlorians or whatever the fuck, that to me really needs explanation. Number one, what the fuck does it do? Does it grow? Does it provide power? Does it rebuild damage? Like, there's a scene where he's got this CGI swirl of sharp, blocky things in front of him, and he's kind of looking at it. So that's
Megalon.
But how does that build anything? Which then really fucked with me, because as I mentioned in the plot summary, Adam Driver gets shot in the fucking face. An entire upper half of his scalp and eye cavity is blown away in a very nicely shot Coppola bit of violence. It brought you, oh, this is the Godfather director. Here he's back. He knows how to fucking shoot violence. So Adam Driver, his scientist, I couldn't tell, they graft
Megalon
onto his missing flesh and bone. And I think over the course of the movie, it self-heals and brings it all back to normal. But what the fuck does that mean? Like, there are scenes where he takes off the bandage and he's still healing, and it just makes this noise. And the characters they're not reacting to the
Megalon.
They're reacting at like, yo, I can see part of your fucking skull there, dude. Christ, let's get back to the Matrix. When Neo gets blinded in Matrix Revolutions, that's the arc of the character. And then because he gets blinded, he can see the Matrix code presumably more effectively. Okay, this thing happened for this thing to happen. I couldn't figure out what the fuck this element in his face did. Did it make him a better architect, or did it make him a nicer husband? I couldn't tell.
And obviously it doesn't care whether you could tell or not.
No. Is the nerd in me wasting time? All this science fiction stuff that looks visually appealing, am I looking for a lightsaber where there's no fucking lightsaber? I suppose.
I mean, possibly. It sounds a bit like Existence. Have you ever seen that? The Cronenberg movie.
Yes.
A lot of body horror / body technology / I don't think so. I think you're going into it as you go into a lot of films, and you want to see the nuts and bolts, and you want to see why the writer has written that in. But I don't worry about the why. I got a coworker, she's 23, I think, and she's often using the word vibes. And she just says that word, vibes. And sorry, my cat is really looking for the coziest spot on my lap, isn't she?
I've got a great image right now of this cute little fur ball just burrowing its way into your lap.
She's rare, very rare. She's obviously very into this conversation. I like vibes. I don't like the word vibes, but I like I like it. I think adding texture to something without explanation for me is never. If something is working, it's not a problem. Because I think having a background texture and a foreground texture, things that are explained and things that aren't, I think that's how the world is. Knowing a little bit and then not knowing enough, maybe being frustrated you don't know more about something, is how life is. So I personally probably wouldn't find that such of an issue. I would if it were a standard generic sci-fi, where you'll have oceans of explanation about stuff. Then you're trained to think, well, I need to know, if you're going to show me, I need to know everything. And we've talked about that, about previous films. But if it's not really going for that, probably wouldn't bother me. Yeah, not to say you're wrong, but just how I feel.
No, I think in this case, I am wrong. I think it's my limited experience with a fuck it and fuck you film. And it's just my nerdery being like, oh, I like that cool techie thing. I want to know more. But so I have a prime example of this movie ready to go for you. Okay, are you ready? Shia LaBeouf's character, he unleashes a scandal during a live show that causes a public mini riot. That's all you need to know. So Shia LaBeouf's character creates a scandal that makes people rush the stage, ripping things down. It creates a bit of pandemonium, okay? Mayor Franklin, his seen it all, done it all fixer named Nush Berman, played by Dustin Hoffman, he goes to the mayor and says, yo, what are you going to do? This fucking kid, he's stirring shit. He's getting the public's ear. He's gaining followers. As the mayor, what are you going to do about this kid? And the mayor tells Dustin Hoffman, you deal with it in your own way. You take care of it. Okay? That's the sit-up. Shia LaBeouf causes a fucking mini outrage. The mayor tells his fixer, you fucking handle that kid. Great. So the stage is set for some Godfather-esque level fuckery, is what you might assume. At the very least, you're thinking, oh, so this old political warhorse versus the young upstart, I'm going to get something. But no. A scene or two later, Shia LaBeouf's underling mentions in this throwaway aside, yo, remember that Dustin Hoffman guy? Shia replies, oh yeah, we totally ganked that fucker, didn't we? Cuts to a one shot of Hoffman overacting in fear, like, as bricks and mortar come down around him. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Mm. The movie's done with Hoffman. Does it explain his death? No. Is Hoffman somehow faking his death? He's going to come back later on in the movie and be like, aha, you fuck. No, he's not. Does the mayor learn about his death or react or swear revenge? Nope. Does any character mention any repercussion of this guy getting fucking whacked? No. But yet I don't hate it.
Yeah.
In a more typical movie, I feel you get away with 2 use your imagination, you fucking idiot scenes or bits. In a more simplistic film, I will allow a film 1 or 2 moments of like, you work it out.
Yeah.
This movie has, by my count, over 18 moments of, well, you figure it out.
The reason you probably don't dislike it as much as you might in another film is that the rules have been set. That's what's going to happen. Accept that world as it is. And it's not contradicting itself. That is how it's been set up. And because it's done it 18 times, by the 8th time, you've been like, okay, that's what we're doing. I think if you see a mainstream film and it does it, if it goes out of its way to explain literally everything, and then it does it once and you're like, well, that's a plot hole, or that's someone couldn't be asked to finish the script. But in that kind of film, that isn't generally how you feel about it. Again, it's vibes. And it's something for you to fill in. And, you woke up the next morning and probably your subconscious was going to work and thinking, oh, hang on, there was that. Oh, is that true? And I love that. And I always have. Much smarter people than me have written about it. And it is almost indefinable when it works and when it doesn't work. And the fact that this film has got I think a 5.1 average rating says everything, because for 50% of the audience, it's like, nah. But some people, it's like, yeah, fuck it. Come on, this is interesting. And it doesn't matter. I'll work it out. I'll write a little essay about it, or I'll do a fanfic, or I'll draw a picture, and I'll think about the implications of what he's suggesting, even if he's not following it through. I think depends on the kind of film, depends on what you bring to it. You bring the writerly, I want to understand it, and I want to know that the person that's written it understands what they're writing. I can see it. And, we've had this discussion before. It's always interesting talking to you about stuff because it doesn't bother me a jot. Our dear departed friend, we've been talking about Twin Peaks. Now, Twin Peaks is a show that was written by 2 people. One kind of standard writer who's interested in mystery and conspiracy and myths and legends and things like that. And one who's David Lynch. And those 2 together, they're very, very different. And sometimes they feel like they're pulling in totally different directions. Season 2, Lynch was not really involved. Season 3, he was. And our friend was a bit perplexed by 3 because he wanted things to make sense. He wanted surreal touches onto a skeleton that makes sense. But what it was stretching the metaphor, a ghostly apparition moving in all kinds of shapes. And there's no through line that he could kind of get his teeth into. So I preferred season 3 and he preferred season 2. And again, he's not wrong. It's totally fine. I just like it when I'm left to try and work stuff out, or not, or just leave it. And I don't think either is wrong. It's just different approaches to cinema, I suppose.
One thing the writer and the director in me noticed right from the get-go is that the actors were clearly let loose with the screenplay. So I was reading an interview with the editor, and the editor referenced where Adam Driver and Natalie Emmanuel, they play a tug of war on an imaginary rope out of nowhere. They just start tugging on each other, just tugging like crazy, which sounds far harder than I mean it. It comes out of nowhere. And as the film was being edited while shooting, Coppola kept on getting inspired to take more unusual takes. So there's a scene where Adam Driver walks in onto a catwalk and he recites from beginning to end the entire to be or not to be speech. Not the bit that we're familiar with, but the 2.5, 3 minute speech. I was just like, cut, trim. No. He's just waffling on, and the camera keeps cutting to extras and to Giancarlo Esposito looking like, oh, you son of a bitch, you're quoting Shakespeare. And it just keeps on going. I think that might be somewhat of a contributing factor as to people just being like, fuck, the actors being like, I'm going to do this here. And Coppola being like, go for it. And it's praiseworthy because it's engaging. It's vital. It's great to watch, but it's also like, yo, this is not, in a way, this film is critique bulletproof because it's just like, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
When I read about like how the Coens write a script and how every inflection must be exactly as they ask, and how Fincher will do 1,000 takes because he wants it to be exactly what he thinks. Kubrick as well, to an extent.
Yep.
And I like all three of those. But I also really like it when someone's like, now, actually, that was better. Maybe it's not what I wrote down on a piece of paper or what I had in mind when I woke up this morning, but I like it. I think you like it and you're doing it well, so let's go for it. And that tends to be left on cutting room floors or for special editions. Or we know that Coppola, you look at the Redux of Apocalypse Now, I mean, when you had the unfortunate pleasure of trying to get me to present those little shows, you would want me to say a certain thing, and unfortunately I don't have a very good memory, and I would just say something similar but not exactly the same, and sometimes it was good and sometimes it was shit. You were kind enough to be like, yeah, all right, well, not really what I was going for, but all right, and then you probably tried to edit that back out again.
Mark is referring to some YouTube shorts that we filmed a long time ago for a company that doesn't need to be named. Those YouTube shorts have since been scrubbed from existence, so there's no luck in finding them. But yeah, I thought you did very well. Don't be so hard on yourself.
A lot of controversy about how and why those got taken down off the internet, but we won't go into that.
Speaking of controversy,
yeah,
do you know what the Megalopolis IMAX Ultimate Experience is?
I did do a bit of research. I know you'll be shocked by this, but apparently there's a scene where somebody goes down to the front of the cinema and actually interacts with Adam Driver.
You are correct. Yes, there's a press conference scene. If there is an actor in question that has been hired by the cinema, they go to the front of the cinema, right in front of the screen, and they talk to Adam Driver. They ask him a question to which he answers in real time. And it's only for that one scene, and it's gone.
Love it.
This was apparently Coppola's idea back when I think the movie may or may not have been funded by Amazon. He wanted to use an Amazon Alexa variant to ask Mr. Driver the question. And then when they were filming later on, once they figured out who the restrictions were, yada, 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 Mr. Driver suggested just have an usher ask me a question. So it was filmed with that intent. Why not? This movie is what the fuck. Add another what the fuck. It's the balls on Coppola at his age to be like, you know what? I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to try this. Why not? It's a great question. Why the fuck not? If it was the Indianapolis speech in Jaws and someone's like, yo, Quint, why do you fucking hate sharks?
Yeah.
I would revolt. But for this, yeah, why not?
I read about it today, yesterday? Yeah, I think yesterday. And somebody had actually gone to that. He had that kind of smile on his face. It was like, not sure if I liked it or if I hated it, but I enjoyed it. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean, I've seen a lot of theatre and I've seen a lot of, Shakespeare Globe in London will have kind of similar things. They'll riff on, I mean, it's since the beginning of time. And Shakespeare did it quite a lot, which is maybe where he got the idea from. Actors will riff off what audience members say or how they behave. And those little ad libs, obviously, you can't do that in a film, but he's trying to maybe capture a little bit of that. Why, as you say, why not? Nothing's been lost. It's adding something. And your excellent analogy earlier, just keep putting more and more paint on. Yeah, keep putting more and more paint on. Let the painting get as thick as you like. What's the problem? I mean, you're making art. That's how things get pushed forward and pushed in weird directions, and that's what it should be.
Listeners, if you're still with us, this is the kind of the end of the pros and cons, the discussion part of the film. Now we're moving on to the question, the last section of this podcast, the written off requiem, whatever you want to call it. This part of the podcast is basically where I ask Mark a couple of questions based on my observations of the movie. And they're less about the movie itself and more about movies in general. I'm very curious to hear his opinion about these 4 topics. First of all, the Aubrey Plaza character, Wild Platinum, she has sex with 3 men over the course of this film, resulting in 2 sex scenes in total. Around her or during the sexual act, the men in question are either horny and stupid as all fuck or emotionally disinterested. My question is this okay? Is this a classic archetype that's beyond the pale, having this seductress that's just out for blood, and for some reason men in her orbit become just mindless beasts? Is it a trope? Is it an archetype? Is it valid? Does it work? Or is it just like, yo, man, we've moved beyond this? There should be more to this character. What do you think?
I mean, obviously I haven't seen it, but it sounds like a kind of sex positive version of a noir, femme fatale. The femme fatale has grown and evolved over time. And if you read a lot of what wave of feminism we're in now, 4th, 5th, you're into a wave of feminism where, sex workers are not vilified, and rightly so. Sex positivity, women, I don't want to say using their bodies to their advantage, but to be fair, men use the quote unquote advantages they have to their advantage all the time, never questioned. So, physicality or whatever else. So I don't see that. It would depend how it was portrayed. And I'm sure I haven't seen it. I don't know which lens we're looking through. I don't know if we're looking at it the male gaze or the female gaze. There's a lot of discussion now about using those tropes. I think trope is fair, but through the female gaze and through an empowerment gaze. And I don't know. He's an 85-year-old man. I'd be very pleasantly surprised if he's done it in a sex positive way. You just telling me about it, yeah, you get a bit squeamish. But I've seen it done in lots of things and I've come out of it going, yeah. So I'm going to sit on the fence slightly, but say I don't think it's necessarily a problem.
In the scenes in question, she is the instigator. Well, she's on top during one scene, and then the other scene, she's grabbing the male character and thrusting his head down. She's in control the entire time. She's using these men to get what she wants. So are they taking advantage of her? They probably think they are because they're complete idiots. But I wondered, I was like, if it was a male character and the female characters are complete dum-dums and he's just fucking his way through dumb women, is that thereby offensive? It was just, I don't have any answers for these questions. I'm just curious.
I think it would be, again, I would show someone like my niece's age or a little bit younger and maybe not my niece particularly, and just say, okay, how do you feel this plays? I mean, look, the reality is men behave like that. People behave like that. The world is a difficult, complicated place. And I think you often do have to use what you can to get where you need to go. And I don't know where she's trying to go. So it's a little bit difficult to answer.
She's trying to go up, up, up. She wants control. And so
I've probably got more of a problem with that because I'm not a particular fan of sort of over ambition, and that's probably, I've got more of an issue with that than I have with her using men.
The way she gets it. Yeah,
kind of. Yeah.
So my second question, in this movie, there are 2 main female leads. One starts off hating the male lead. Oh, he's against my father. I don't like him. Have you heard this gossip about him? What a son of a bitch. Then she turns around basically in the space of a scene with the guy and, oh, wait a minute, you're smart. And you think, I'm smart. Oh, I love you. And then she spends the rest of the movie in love with him and kind of without her own agency. She spends the rest of the movie trying to convince her father that the dude she's shacked up with is a nice guy.
Yeah, here we've got the shadow of some of the accusations against Coppola, haven't we, a little bit? I mean, that sounds a bit more problematic. John Updike, who is an author that I respect, a lot of his later books tended towards that. I mean, he's not subtle. There's a lot of older writers attracting younger women, and it's cringy as fuck. And a lot of people of a certain age, and Coppola, well, he's probably only, Updike has died, but he's probably 10 years younger than him. So there's a tendency of men of a certain age to write like that. And it's very cringe as you've just presented it to me.
Now, I might be missing some scenes or some dialogue, but basically that's the gist that I got from it. And of course, the other female character is the sexual predator. not in the nasty sense of the word, but someone who is very predatory, going after what she wants. So is the film misogynistic? Does it pass the Bechdel test? Probably not. But then it is a film about men, capital M, and power, capital P, like the Roman event it's based on. So is there a pass there?
We can't give it the pass, can we?
No, we can't. No. But what if the architect character was a woman and she was going up against the mayor, who is a man? If it was about man and creation, I think that's a bit of delightfulness that was passed over. You and I have talked about Heat, and Heat is not, for as good as that movie is, it is not good towards the female characters. On the flip side, you've got The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, where there are no female characters. It's very much a movie about men being isolated. So there are many different takes on this kind of thing. And I just wonder, the other female characters in this movie are moms, the concerned moms who kind of wiffle waffle but don't really do anything, or gossipy young women, or like I said, the virgin pop star.
There are not many films that I see that are written and directed by men that do the females justice. There's a really good film, which the title has completely escaped me, by Bo Burnham, who's a comedian, and he made a film about...
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I think that is, off the top of my head, the best example of a man writing and directing a film where the female character feels completely 100% genuine and lived in and accurate.
I think it was my favorite movie of 2020, Promising Young Woman.
It's not that.
Oh, it's not that. Oh, sorry. Burnham was acting in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was acting in it. He was the creepy boyfriend. Yeah.
Eighth grade?
Eighth grade. I couldn't believe that, and it sounds weird, an adult man had written a teenage girl so well. I couldn't believe it. Those scenarios are rare. I don't see that an 80+ man is really going to do a fantastic job writing a woman. So I kind of feel like, unless he's going to bring in a female collaborator, which he probably isn't, don't bother. It's the same with Michael Mann. I actually read Heat 2, the Michael Mann written follow-up to Heat.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's good. But it's good. You know what you're going to get, and you get it. Well, Lord of the Rings as well. You know, there are a lot of films where females are appallingly written, and it's embarrassing that there are so many of them. But when you've got men with hands on the tiller, it's not all that surprising. Hopefully that is dramatically changing. But to be fair, it's similar when you watch a film directed by a straight man with a queer character. Very often it's embarrassing. That is a topic that will run and run, but I do think we're getting there on that.
Next question. Should films like this get a pass? You know, less clear, less mainstream, less spoon feeding than others. Like I mentioned before, is this critically bulletproof? Because the entire film is meant to be, what I assume, absorbed.
Critics have a different role in engaging with this kind of film. I've got into recently, there's this guy that we might have mentioned it. He does very long form reviews of Amazon's Rings of Power. Needless to say, he's not a fan. I think he's relatively fair in his not a fandom. He is approaching it almost purely from a writer's point of view. This doesn't work because they haven't written it well enough. They haven't set it up. And so it doesn't make sense. He constantly says it doesn't make sense. That kind of program is desperately trying to make you believe that everything makes sense. Whereas Coppola doesn't sound like he's particularly interested in that.
Well said. Our final question. Should actors be given power of script during filming? I'm not talking about a line here or a line there. I mean, like, this scene I contributed to heavily, or this arc I changed completely.
Obviously, one of the issues we have with films that are where post-production is so essential in what they become, that's very difficult to do. You know, someone like Mike Leigh the British director, I once attended a Q&A. He made a film called Vera Drake, and he really, really allows the actors to develop their own characters. As a result, I don't like the word, but you feel the naturalism or the realism of those characters. But they are small scale dramas. Ken Loach will do a similar thing. A film of this ilk to do it is rare because obviously it's costly. How the hell do you set up big, elaborate shots and then say, right, you do whatever you want? Like, how do you light it? How do you allow any SFX or whatever, any post-production work to take place? How do you dub it? Logistically, it's incredibly rare and difficult to do that. I have seen films where it's pretty obvious that's what's happened and it's felt very self-indulgent. And I've seen other films where it's more like theater and you feel that is incredible. That is the most, again, Vera Drake, if you ever watch that film, or any of Mike Leigh films, you feel everything they feel because it feels so genuine to that particular actor. But your opinion probably differs from mine.
No, you've actually turned me around. My original opinion was fuck off. No. Unless they are writers themselves, including comedians, they, have written material before. Okay. Or let's say they've inhabited a character for years. If they've been on a TV show with the same character, if this is the fourth sequel, then by all means, that actor knows that character back to front. And it's less about their ego and more like, no, the character would actually say this here and there. Your point was perfectly explained. Yeah, you are right. It does depend very much on the movie, the kind of story being told. I think I was more just targeting, we won't mention the actor's name because we both know exactly who we're thinking of, but they're known for inhabiting a red-suited superhero and spending entire chunks of the movie just ad-libbing. And
it does veer into self-indulgence sometimes. But again, obviously, Coppola didn't edit it, though, did he? I don't know who he got to edit it.
2 editors. He wrote it, produced it, and directed it, but he had 2 editors working with him.
He was almost certainly standing behind them at all times. So
quite possibly, yeah.
And again, and I'd love to talk about editing more at some point because it's an art that is so infrequently discussed, and I can't understand it because editing is, I wouldn't go as far as say everything, but it is huge. I mean, you've had to edit a lot of things before. It's huge.
You write the screenplay. That is really your first draft. Then you film that screenplay. That is your second draft. But it is the editing, which is the third and ostensibly final draft of your movie. And then I would even say the fourth draft is the audience's reaction and interpretation of that material. A movie goes through these cocoons, these phases, and the editing, they make or break a movie. Verna Fields, legendary editor, she took Jaws. They were filming that movie for months. And if you're out in the ocean, by the minute, your lighting will change. Oh, it's overcast. Oh, it's sunny. Oh, it's choppy waters. Now it's not. The miracle of that movie is it flows and it works, and you cannot tell the turmoil and the insanity that went on to get this movie made.
If you are, we're going back to what we said, if you are allowing free reign or relative free reign in the actors, it's going to pose a lot of editing challenges that you wouldn't get. Like a Fincher film or even a Kubrick film would be relatively quote unquote easy to edit because he's done all the work to the second. This is going to be to this point. I'm going to film it exactly like that. I'll basically cut it and you'll have the cut already there. I mean, somebody might disagree with me. I don't think editing is as important because he's already done it. He's edited it in his head.
From the internet, Coppola adopted an experimental style that permitted improvisation during the shoot by letting actors write scenes and himself make spontaneous changes to the script. These methods proved divisive, leading to the resignation of the entire art department and visual effects team.
Well, there you are. That's pretty much what I said, right?
Wait, when you watch the movie, the visual effects, I'm not being cruel, they look like PlayStation 2 era cutscenes. Like they've got this hazy filter over them. They're not crystal clear. The texture is off. None of the CGI, unfortunately, looks very good.
Everything you're saying, regardless of whether I might enjoy it or not, I'm enjoying hearing about what went into it. And yeah, he's given his life's blood to it, hasn't he? I mean, it reminds me a little bit of David Bowie's last album. Famously, he died the day after it was released. He literally poured all of his end of life energy into this project, released it, died the next day. I'd actually listened to it the day it came out, which is rare. And I said to my wife, I was like, something's wrong with him. This sounds like he's writing his own eulogy. And it turned out he was. I would really not have been surprised if Coppola had dropped down dead on the day it was released, because it has that sense of, I'm going for it, I'm going for it, I'm going for it. So maybe, maybe that's what age does to some people. It diminishes a lot of people, but maybe for him, I've got to, like you said earlier, I've got to get this out now. To be that brave and to try that many things, let's take the allegations against him aside, that's something else. But artistically, to try so many things, I can think of artists that did it, like as in painters that did it, but that's a lot bloody easier than wrangling however many people are involved in this and being like, yeah, I'm going to be collaborative. Yeah, I'm going to be megalomaniac, but I'm also going to be collaborative.
You probably wanted to see it anyway to begin with, but has this podcast intrigued you enough to make you want to see it more?
Yeah, if I get chance, I might go next week. If I get chance. Joker 2 is coming out, which obviously I kind of have to see that, but could do a double bill, couldn't I? Last time I did a double bill was with you, Brad. Anyway, double bills I always love, and it's so rare you get to do it, isn't it? Unfortunately. Actually, at the moment, there's quite a lot of interesting things out. I was just having a scan through. I would say for the first time in a long time, from tomorrow, there'll be 4 films that I'd be interested in seeing, and that's rare.
Good.
Maybe I should splash out. I'm off on Monday. That might be quite good, mightn't it? No one in the cinema. Be quite nice.
Folks, since Mark and I recorded this episode, Megalopolis has continued to shine. Francis Ford Coppola refuses to allow any streaming service to get the rights. Now you think, for a movie that made, current numbers I have in front of me range from, let's say, 11 to 14 million maximum, you would imagine the guy on the hook would be very interested in getting some money back by giving it to one of these big streaming companies that have a lot of money. But no, Francis Ford Coppola has never, will never do anything the easy way. He has been leading a barnstorming tour around 6 different cities in the United States. He's taken this film and he's traveling around with it, doing a kind of Q&A after the show, much like Kevin Smith is well known for doing. But this is Francis Ford Coppola. So as you can imagine, been doing pretty well. Most of the sessions have sold out. Plus, he has a 160-page graphic novel of the film being released down the line. He was also quoted on IndieWire as saying that he's going to recut and re-release Megalopolis at some point, saying that the original cut was more weird. I own the picture. I can do anything I want with it. The recut will include added deleted dream sequences that will make the film weirder. Not to mention what I cannot wait to see, Megadoc. This is a Mike Figgis director documentary on all the twists and turns of making Megalopolis. It's Mike Figgis directing a documentary about this. You've listened to this episode, this batshit movie. What must that be like behind the scenes? What kind of insanity and joy and incredibly memorable moments are there to be found in that documentary? I think long after this episode has been out there, Megalopolis will still continue to do its thing. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I feel like this is a movie people will pick up throughout the years and be like, have you seen this thing? Yeah, let's sit down and watch it. That is, of course, if you can eventually get your hands on it. Whatever podcast app you're listening on, leave us a review. Give us 5 stars, please. It helps to kind of push the show out. It helps to get more ears on this podcast, which means more people around the world subjected to the utter pain and misery of my terrible impressions. And weird-ass ad reads. Just think, the bigger the podcast gets, put it this way, I can seriously see a future where we get ad reads for a product and within a month, gone. No more. Shut down. Nah. But we don't like it when the guy randomly swears and goes off topic all the damn time. Anyway, want to suggest a movie for us to have a look at? Jump on Instagram @WrittenOffPod and leave us a comment. You can also find me at Brad is writing, and you cannot find Mark. You can never find Mark on any social media because that's just not who the guy is. Mark is many things, but he's not that guy, and he never will be. On our next episode, folks. Yes, you heard that right. You were not having a psychotic break. Come Christmas time, we're unveiling our first annual written off Christmas episode. It's the present you've been waiting for, and we're gonna shove it down your sack. So, look forward to that on Christmas Eve 2025. Written off our first Christmas episode. Who do you think the Grinch is going to be? Me or Mark? I can't even finish that sentence. You know it's going to be Mark. Of course it has to be Mark. Written off. Bah. Written Off is hosted by me, Bradley Freeman, and Mark Tasker. It's produced by the both of us, and it's edited by me. Our theme music is by Skane, and our artwork is by Sketchfro. This has been a Pugnacious Podcast production.